Hi, everybody. Welcome to Good, the podcast for those that do. And this is 5 Minute Friday. I'm Shivo, here with D-Fran. How we doing, Mike?
Evening, Shivo.
How's it going today?
Fired up. Let's do it.
Let's do it. So let's tell our listeners what we're going to talk about on 5 Minute Friday.
So today we're going to talk about talent and how talent is overrated. Hey, basketball season is in the finals and NHL's in the Stanley Cup finals. Seen a lot of talented people. Your LeBron James, your Sidney Crosby. But talent is overrated because in a lot of books that I've read and a lot of things that I've seen and heard, there's a lot of areas where working hard and hard workers beat talented people, and hard workers are the ones that end up being the most successful. So today we're going to touch a little about a school around where I'm from. So if anyone's seen 8 Mile, you know about Cranbrook, right? You went to Cranbrook. That's a private school, right? It's an 8 Mile M&M's rap. And Cranbrook's a very prestigious school in Michigan. And a teacher wrote a column in one of the papers discussing how some of her best students, she has surrounded by some of the best students across the country. And some of her best students, she asked, hey, how long do you study a week? Or how much do you study a week? And the students were telling, I study hours a day. I dedicate hours of my day to study. I want to get better every single day. And what she came to conclude is that it's not the smartest kids that were the most successful in her class. And some of the smartest kids in her class were some of the kids that worked the hardest. So it wasn't necessarily God-given talent. That helps. You need a little bit of that. But it's the work ethic and the ability to consistently work hard and consistently outwork your competition is what made her students great. She referenced one student, I think his name was David, and she said, she was teaching a math class that wasn't really that hard of a math class. It was kind of like a lower level math class for this prestigious school. And David was incredible. He blew it out of the water. He was really successful. So she bumped him up and went to the principal and said, hey, he needs to be in another class, a higher level class. And they said, sure, no problem. And he struggled. He got a B. And he struggled really hard in Algebra 1, and then he struggled a lot when he went to geometry. But by the end of his senior year, he was in AP Calculus, and he got a 5 and a perfect score on his AP placement exam. And she said, David, that's incredible. And he goes, I worked really hard, and I studied a lot, and it was tough at first. I'm not going to lie, there was a lot of times where it was very difficult to move up in a math class or go with a bunch of people who were also very talented. But my hard work helped me prevail. There's a great book. Obviously, we've referenced this book in the past called Grit by Angela Duckworth, and there's a lot of similar stories to that one in that book. But I would reference a book by Jeff Holden. It's called Talent is Overrated. And I think that book has a great message that says you're going to be surrounded by talented people your whole life. You're going to be surrounded by people who have more God-given talent than you do. Maybe they're taller, stronger, faster, smarter. Maybe they're put in situations that help them to benefit and become better. And that's okay, because you're going to work harder every day. You're going to outwork them every day. And if you're not, then you'll know why you're not as successful as they are. You'll know why. You can point right to it. They outwork you, and they're more talented. But I think that, towards the end of this podcast, we'll touch on a few things. But, Shab, I really wanted you to share a story from Florida. I think you have a great one there that really hits home on a real-life scenario of this subject there.
Yeah, so when I was working down at the University of Florida, we had a men's tennis player that came in not that highly recruited. He significantly shorter than your standard collegiate tennis player. He came in at about 5'6", 5'7", 140 pounds soaking wet. And a lot of people said that he wasn't big enough or strong enough to play at that level. And he came in as a freshman and played pretty well for us. He was kind of low in the lineup, and he was always very caught up in his size, and that really affected his game. And it got into his own head was that I'm smaller than everybody else and that I can't hang at this level. And after a year of okay performance, he kind of rededicated himself to the game, and I mean just absolutely outworked everybody throughout the summer and throughout the fall of his sophomore year, and just came into his season as a sophomore in the spring, just shredded to pieces, looked like a machine, was fitter than everybody else, was stronger than everybody else, uh, and he played much better his sophomore year. And then going into his junior year, which was this past season, uh, again he assumed a leadership role. He was one of the team captains. He played number two in singles and was one of the best players on the team. And he did it not because of his talent, not because of what God gave him. He did it because he absolutely was a workhorse and and proved a lot of people wrong and used what those doubters said about him to push him to work harder than anybody else. And and this year the Florida Gators were SEC champions, and he set the tone for that team.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And I had a chance to meet those guys, and I remember I'm typically usually one of the smaller guys in the group, but that guy was pretty tiny.
Yeah, yeah, he's
Um,
little.
but one thing that always stuck out to me is that you go back to one of my favorite movies of all time is Rudy, right? And people respect someone that works hard. People respect someone that they can see the effort, they can see the passion, they can feel it. And I feel like when a talented person is up against someone who's working hard, if it's a toss-up, it's gonna go to the hard work. It's gotta have it. I've seen it time and time again where someone says, you know what, that person put in the effort, they put in the time, they kept showing up. Keep showing up.
That's right.
If you ever have an opportunity to ask yourself, hey, should I quit right now, or should I keep showing up? Should I go one more time? Ask yourself what benefit does it have to quit now? What benefit does it do me after all this work, all this effort? I stop now. Keep showing up, and one day it's going to break through. And I think Elliott kept showing up, and it broke through for him.
That's exactly it. That's exactly
And
it.
with that, Shaba, you want to lead us out with one of our, as always, a 5-minute Friday quote?
Certainly. Uh, so to go with what we've been talking about, we've seen it from a bunch of sources. Many people have said, hard work beats talent when talent refuses to work hard. Think about that over the weekend. Remember, you don't need to be the best to be successful. And this has been good, the podcast for those that do.